When we talk about relaxing games, there's an aesthetic and setting that we tend to have in mind. It's usually really cute, often with low action, has a lot of animals, very little violence, but this relaxing game is a little different. And although it works with gameplay we've seen in other simulator games before, it puts a nice twist to it that makes it a little bit unique and really engaging. Created by Polish devs President Studio, Crime Scene Cleaner has you play as a school janitor. But the kind of cleaning you do isn't your typical spill or school table. You see, your character Kowalski is experiencing some financial issues as he needs to come up with the money needed to pay for his daughter's treatment at the hospital. Because of desperation, he ends up working for the mob, where he cleans up after their messy deeds to avoid any scrutiny from the cops. If you've ever played games like Mafia or Grand Theft Auto and wonder what happens to the warehouses or apartments or any other place you shoot up during missions, yeah, now you get to play the guy who cleans up after those. But hang on a moment. School employee turns to crime to pay for family's bills? I can't put my finger on it, but I think I've seen this story before. Now, don't let the setting and the premise fool you, though. Sure, you're working for some violent criminals and you'll be cleaning up some copious amounts of blood and evidence, but to be honest, this is a very relaxing game. Now, this may sound counterintuitive, but hear me out. Since the main focus is to tidy up each place, the gameplay is solely focused on this and is designed to make this really fun and challenging at the same time, but also not putting a lot of pressure on you. Since there's no time limit, you can calmly mop and sponge up those nasty bloodstains, gather up trash and bodies so you can dispose of them. By the way, throwing them to your container while yelling Kobe or Larry Bird is incredibly fun. You should try it. And even using some neat tools like a UV lamp or washing detergent to help you optimize your cleaning. What I love best about the game though is how each level is super interesting. Since you're coming into the location after the events have taken place, you're only going to have a general idea about what happened based on the mission brief or the short cutscene that plays beforehand. But when you get there, you can often piece together how things went down based on the evidence you find, where the bodies are located, how blood is splattered with hand, foot, and sometimes even paw stains. It's such a clever way to make the job a little bit more engaging because now you're kind of focusing on something more than just, the tidying up, as there's some sort of B-plot that happened during the crime that you can kind of follow. There are even secrets that you can discover by just being really observant, and these often reward you with additional context about the crime or location, something completely fun and random, or even some cassette tapes which you can listen to as you mop away. Levels are also littered with precious items and cash that you can pocket to add more money to your savings. Because let's face it, hospital bills are expensive, and the man's gotta feed himself and his dog Dexter. With these, I think the devs have made an incredible effort in terms of environmental storytelling, which makes every job unique and interesting, since for the most part, the gameplay is largely the same. I also think this opens up a ton of potential levels in a future installment or even in DLC, as they can get really creative in setting up the crime scene. It's also cool that they included progression in this game through the skill tree, and maybe this is some adult thing that I should be ashamed of, but the satisfaction I get from unlocking an extra mop or sponge or getting new detergent is scarily similar to what I feel in real life when I'm shopping for new cleaning supplies at home. It's also not too hard to progress and unlock these skills, as doing a good job and discovering secrets tend to give you a lot of skill points that you can use between missions, which I think is going to be very useful, as in later missions you're going to really need all of these improvements in order to make your job a little bit more efficient. The story is a bit interesting, as you also follow Kowalski's employer Big Jim, who is a dominant mob boss in the underground, along with some additional story points that you can get through your email. I personally like the idea of a regular guy slowly getting used to the life of a criminal and eventually thriving in it, and having that as a backdrop to the cleaning simulation you do is a pretty interesting approach. That said, the writing and the dialogue in the story is kinda shaky. The setting of the game is in the US, so a lot of the characters are naturally going to be American, with a little variation here and there, and I did expect some stereotypical ones like the thick Brooklyn accent we usually find in gangster movies or games. What you should note though is that the voice acting will feel a little off, sometimes to a distracting degree unfortunately. Now, I'm no voice actor, my attention to that stuff is amateur at best, But many characters seem to be going for a specific accent, but they don't execute on it too well.
A dead guy in your trunk, Rob. Used to push the product for me. He had this freaky hobby.
Now, I'm not a native speaker as well, so I can't really complain, but there are times where I'm taken out of the immersion a bit because of some awkward dialogue or delivery.
Using mop here is pretty much as ineffective as mopping around.
I kinda understand how that happened though. President Studio, as I mentioned, is a Polish indie developer, so I'm not surprised that this game is immensely fun, as we've already seen the caliber of game devs that come from Poland. But it's also likely that they were working with some limited resources, and so the quality of voice acting might be inconsistent, aka some of them might be doing the voices themselves. That's just a minor nitpick though. In the end, I'm just here for some nice clean-up gameplay, and if you are too, then you probably won't notice that too much anyways. Narratively speaking though, I do wish they delve a little bit more into the psyche of Kowalski because he kinda comes off very nonchalant, and even if there are moral implications to what he's doing, it's rarely given much depth. But again, whether or not that's important is really up to you. Aside from the minor funny glitches, there's not a lot to complain about when it comes to gameplay, but you do have to note that levels can be a little long, especially near the end, where I sometimes clock at about an hour to an hour and a half because the locations get bigger and more complex. Not gonna lie though, sometimes this made it feel as tedious as actually cleaning in real life, so I do advise that you don't do what I do and try to finish the longer levels in one sitting. Please take breaks. The game autosaves periodically during a level, so you can always jump back in later if it's starting to feel a little tiring. If you're also someone like me who experiences some motion sickness from first-person games, I'd also recommend taking it slow, as some levels put your car or your garbage container really far from the areas you're cleaning, so you'll be doing a lot of running back and forth, which can be a little bit of a pain. But aside from these minor issues, I can't really complain. This is a solid simulator game with a cool premise. It can be a little jank at times, but that's something they can iron out in a sequel that I hope they'll make, because I'm definitely craving more levels and scenarios with some cool secrets to uncover as well. It's currently out on Steam now, so do check it out for yourself and let me know in the comments what you think of the game and if you think I missed anything important. Do like and subscribe if you like what you see. This is Sai from Fireplace Gaming, and I'll catch you again in the next one.